Good morning, beloveds. Well, there's another hurricane. So, um, this one is Gamma. This one looks like it's headed pretty much back for Lake Charles. So, I would invite you in your treatments to treat for the people of Lake Charles. Um, yeah, it's 800 miles wide. So, um, yeah, that's, I mean, I'm happy to see the clouds again because the flat blue for the past week has been a little, I love clouds. I love clouds. And, so I'm happy to have the clouds back, but I'm not happy about Gamma. I'm thankful that Delta appears to have fallen apart. So yes, I would invite you to treat for the people of Louisiana and treat for the hurricane. It's treating for the weather is weird. Because you don't want it to go anywhere else. You don't want it to go anywhere else because you don't want to endanger anybody else. So it's like, okay, we're gonna have this weather, but we can treat for, oh, I think Cleopatra's already read the reading. It's, what you want it to do is to lose strength, but have enough strength to move through the area fairly quickly without doing any damage. And so it's like, yeah. So, and that's one of those where, okay, well, then you just treat for the highest and the best. It's like, I don't know what to treat for. Let me just treat for the highest and best for the people of Lake Charles. So, all right. But let's move on into October 8th. And our title is, Today I Expect and Accept Only Good. Let's talk spiritual 2x4s. Oi! Today I expect and accept only good. Knowing the truth leads me into a more abundant life. Today I affirm that with God all things are possible. I am conscious that the reality of my being is not separated from the divine. I am not only one with God, God is also one with me and one in me. Deliberately, I turn to this inner self, knowing that it has no problems. It is never poor, sick, weak, or unhappy. Persistently, I practice the divine presence. I enter the gates of good with praise and thanksgiving, finding joy and fulfillment in everything I do. Complete prosperity is mine. Good is forever flowing, eternally manifesting itself in me. My good flows to me from every source because I recognize all sources as divine. My hands open to receive and remain open that they may again give out and thus multiply the divine gifts. Today, the truth leads me into the possession of everything necessary to my well-being here on earth. When I discover the inner kingdom with its spiritual gifts, the material gifts that shadow forth this inner kingdom will also make their appearance. I now forget any wrong that may have appeared in my outer world, and turning with gratitude to that inner light, I think upon those things that are good. I no longer contend against people or events. In doing this, I become emancipated from my previous bondage. Today, everything in my experience is made new. Today, I expect and accept only good. I no longer contend against people. That right there is really honestly one of the secrets. Because when you are competing is when you are probably the least unhappy outside of certain circumstances. Let me think. Okay, so when you are competing in competitions, if your only goal is to win, then that will make you miserable. When you are competing in competitions and your goal is to do absolutely the best you can, then you can have an absolutely amazing time. I was in band in high school, and so band competitions, when we were focused on winning, were miserable. And band competitions, when we were focused on just doing the best we could and having the best time, were amazing. I run 5Ks. Well, I did, and I will again. And when I am just running for myself, when I'm competing against my time, when I'm trying to have the best race possible, I have an amazing time. If I'm worried about everybody else in that race, I'm miserable. So the phrase keeping up with the Joneses, that is the most misery-making thing I think we can do to ourselves. If we are worried about somebody else, what somebody else is doing, we're not focused on ourselves. And that can just set you up for misery. So I no longer contend against people or events. And then another phrase, and then I'll get back into it. I enter the gates of good with praise and thanksgiving, finding joy and fulfillment in everything I do. It reminded me of a time that Jesse talked about looking for a job. It's like if you have a job and you're looking for a new job, then what you want to do is do the absolute best you can at the job that you have. And just give your all and enjoy it, and then that will set you up to bring something else into your life. Because if you hate your job, it's like what you resist persists. You're just going to put yourself into another situation. So that's why he says, I enter the gates of good with praise and thanksgiving, because gratitude just kind of smooths all of the rough edges. If you're grateful for whatever it is, then it just kind of makes everything better, and it smooths the way into better. Finding joy and fulfillment in everything I do. We do a whole lot of mundane tasks that are not a whole lot of fun. But if we can find that joy and fulfillment in, if nothing else, a task is done, it'll go a long way to just getting those mundane tasks better. Okay, so knowing the truth leads me into a more abundant life. What truth are we knowing? That there is one power, there is one life, there is one presence, that we are a part of that presence. And whatever is in that presence is available to us, which then leads us to a more abundant life. It's like, oh wait, yes, I can have that. Today I affirm that with God, all things are possible. I see it on a regular basis, and it's Audrey Hepburn, and it's a quote attributed to her. Whether or not it is, I don't know. I mean, it's the internet. But it says, in the word even the word impossible says, I'm possible. So in God, all things are possible. Stop using the word impossible, or when you look at the word impossible, put in that little apostrophe. I'm possible. And when we do treatment, that's why we don't get too focused on the how. Because if we get too focused on the how, then we throw up our hands and go, well, this is impossible. What do I want? What is the end result? How do I want to feel? Focus there. Don't worry about the how, because Spirit will figure that out. Nothing is impossible for Spirit. So focus on the end result that you want and forget about the how. That's Spirit's job, not yours. I am conscious that the reality of my being is not separated from the divine. I am not only one with God, God is also one with me and one in me. Say that to yourself anytime you're having one of those moments. I am not only one with God, God is also one with me and one in me. God is one with me and one in me. I mean, that's the second stage of treatment right there. Unification. Recognition of where we come from and where we are going back to and where we live all the time outside of the noise of the material world. Deliberately, I turn to this inner self, that is a capital S, by the way, knowing that it has no problems. That's what Jesse calls the place that nothing has ever been wrong. There is a place where there is no pain, there is no sorrow, there is no sickness. And it's right there. So we have access to it all of the time. We just get caught up in the busyness of the material world. Because he uses the word shadow in here. We get caught up in the shadow of the material world, forgetting that it isn't what's real. It feels real, it looks real, it smells real. But there is a place. It is never poor, sick, weak, or unhappy. Persistently, I practiced the divine presence. And that's where it's good to have a reminder. Something that reminds you of the divine presence. Whatever it is. It can be like a piece of jewelry. That's why I wear the prayer beads. It's to remind me. Or you can set it up when you see something in your environment. Every time you see a bird, think of the divine presence. Which here in the South is a good, we always have birds around. But, if you live further north, maybe not. So pick something that you see frequently to remind you, and that's your key. When you see that, that's the divine, then you think divine presence, divine presence. So persistently practice the divine presence. I enter the gates of good with praise and thanksgiving, finding joy and fulfillment in everything I do. Complete prosperity is mine. Good is forever flowing, eternally manifesting itself in me. Tattoo that one on your forehead. Good is forever flowing, eternally manifesting itself to me. I don't literally mean tattoo it on your forehead, but like write it on your mirror where you brush your teeth. Or post it up on the door where you leave the house. Somewhere where you'll see it every day. Or even multiple times a day. I mean, we brush our teeth at least twice a day in the house. My good flows into me from every source because I recognize all sources are divine. Let me say that again. My good flows to me, so your good flows to you from every source because I recognize all sources as divine. Think about it that way. The paycheck that you are getting is coming from a divine source. Does that change the way you feel about it? Maybe. It was the most ridiculous thing I could think of. My hands open to receive and remain open that they may again give out and thus multiply the divine gifts. And that's one of the secrets. It's like when you clutch onto things, then they don't flow freely and they don't multiply themselves. It's like when you accept a gift and then remain open to give a gift. And the gift that you accept does not have to be the gift that you give. But that's what multiplies the gifts. It's like, okay, as things are coming into me, I also want to make sure that things are flowing out of me. I don't want to stop the good in myself. One, that causes stagnation. And two, that's not what we're built to do. We're built to be a constantly circulating flow of good. I think Thomas Troward actually called us divine circulators. It's among the many odd things that he says. But it's like the good is constantly flowing into us, and then it should flow out of us. Because that's what we're built to do. We are divine distributors. That's the word. Divine distributors. We are divine distributors. So the divine power flows into us, through us, and out of us. And what comes out of us is amazing when we are willing to let it go. But when we try and clutch onto that divine power or that good or whatever it is, when we try and clutch onto it, that creates stagnation. That creates pain. So let it flow. Let your gifts out into the world, because all of the things that you do are gifts. Whether you think they are or not, trust me, somebody thinks that they're a gift. Sometimes just being present. I mean, one of the best gifts you can give is listening to somebody, hearing them. So, divine gifts. All right. I'm on a soapbox and excited. Today, the truth leads me into the possession of everything necessary to my well-being here on earth. So, possession of everything necessary to my well-being. Anything I need to be happy and prosperous will come to me. And if I don't need it, it is not coming. And so sometimes we get all focused up on Rolling Stones. You don't always get what you want, but you always get what you need. That's divine. That is absolutely divine. You don't always get what you want because you don't necessarily need to be happy. But you will always get what you need to be happy. And sometimes things that you think you want will actually not make you happy. So, Rolling Stones. When I discover the inner kingdom with its spiritual gifts, the material gifts that shadow forth this inner kingdom will also make their appearance. Honestly, I don't know what to make of that sentence. I will think about that one for the day. And I urge you to contemplate it as well. The material gifts that shadow forth this inner kingdom. Okay, yeah, no, literally, I'm going to go contemplate that one. I get it because it's like the material world is a shadow of the spiritual realm. We think it the other way around because, I mean, we can, this is material, we can touch it. But it's a pale shadow of the spiritual realm. But everything that exists in the spiritual realm can manifest in the material realm. Okay. On to the contemplation. I now forget any wrong that may have appeared in my outer world, turning with gratitude to that inner light. I am forgetting all of the nonsense and the noise of the material world and turning to that place that nothing has ever been wrong. And I am turning with gratitude to that inner light. I am grateful to know that there is a place within me where nothing has ever been wrong. Because if there's a place within me where nothing has ever been wrong, then I can pull that experience into my material experience. I think upon those things that are good. So focus on what's good, not what's wrong. Focus on the solutions, not the problems. I no longer contend against people or events. I've already talked about that one. In doing this, I become emancipated from my previous bondage. I'm going to let go of the chains that held me in want. I'm going to let go of the chains that held me in comparison. I am going to let go. I'm going to let go. And I am going to turn towards that light and that place that nothing has ever been wrong. And I'm going to do it in gratitude for its very existence. In today, everything in my experience is made new. Today, I expect and accept only good. It doesn't mean that things that we would not prefer are not going to happen. But I'm going to expect good, and I'm going to accept good. And when things happen that are not good, appearances, I'm not going to accept them. I no longer, it's a new phrase. It's something about the serenity prayer, but they're changing, I'm changing the things that I can no longer accept. So our mission today, should we choose to accept it, is to enter the gates of good with praise and thanksgiving, finding joy and fulfillment in everything we do. That's our mission today. And it's a big one. It is a big one. But when you work into joy, when you work into thanksgiving, when you work into being grateful, When you work into being grateful for the little things, then you can work into being grateful for the big things. So start small and work your way up. There's no shame in practicing. That's how great musicians become great. They practice. All right. I am going to move into the process of my day, but I am going to remind you to do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself. I know we got some weather coming, but, hey, open your windows, allow some fresh air in, do something to engage your mind and your body. Open the windows of your soul, allow that breath of heaven to come in, allow that breath of heaven to bring in that joy and that thanksgiving. Let that breath of heaven remind you that you are a beloved child of God in whom Spirit is well pleased, always and forever. Know that you are loved. All right. Have a wonderful day. And Reverend David will be on with you around 5. I will be back with you at 9 a.m. And by the way, Heartfelt Living starts today. If you want in on that, it might be an interesting class because there's going to be a whole lot of ministers in it. So it's a great way to connect with your community. All right, beloveds, have a wonderful day. Thank you.